Well, welcome to day 4 in Setting Up for Success series for all new students. We're really glad all of you have joined us. Lots of students coming online. We're really glad to see you, and some of our panelists are coming online. We're still waiting for a couple of other panelists, but I'm sure that they will join us very, very shortly. Anyway, some of our most important people from Student Council are here, and that's great. So I'm Debbie Harrison. I am the Diversity and Inclusion Student Success Coordinator, and you'll hear a little bit about the services that Diversity and Inclusion Services offer you as new students a little bit later on. We're going to start with something much more interesting though. We're going to be talking for the first half hour of this session about positive spaces for LGBT two-spirit queer students on campus, and what all of us on the panel do and across the college to contribute to those safe spaces. We'll talk about other areas of human rights as well. No one will be left out. But this is our focus. We have a strong commitment to positive spaces for our LGBT2SQ students. And so this is a bit of our feature of our discussion today. So we really hope that you sit back, you enjoy, and then when we open up Q&A, that you participate and send us questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box. We're monitoring both. So I use the pronouns, I'm addressed by pronouns she or her, if you're wondering, in the chat box, and each of us will let you know as we get started. So before I introduce our other panelists, Trevor Dolmage from our IT department is also here with us. So you can choose to message him if it's an IT related issue, but if you're in the session, you're probably all set up. And so let's introduce our other panelists today. Shelby and Zoe, if you want to unmute. So Shelby, introduce yourself to us.
Super. So hi, my name is Shelby Eastman. I am your Frost Student Association Vice President. The FSA governs the Frost and Halliburton campuses, and I identify personally as queer, and my pronouns are she, hers, or they, theirs.
Thanks, Shelby. Zoe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zoe King. I'm the president for Fleming SAC at the Sutherland campus here in Peterborough. I also identify as she, her, and I'm also part of the LGBTQ community myself.
Great. So thanks, Zoe and Shelby. And Cole is coming online just in time. Cole, we are just introducing ourselves and sharing our pronouns and anything about us that you'd like to share.
So I identify as...
Great.
My name's Cole. I am a business marketing graduate of Fleming College, and I just graduated in April.
Congratulations, Cole. You got through the first round of COVID. An inspiration to other students on the line who are worried. So thanks so much for joining us today. So shortly we may have another member of the Frost Student Association, also named Cole, so hopefully we don't get too confused. But one of the Coles will respond to your questions. So I didn't complete all my identifications, so I'm a straight cisgendered woman. And everyone else here has been sharing some info about themselves, and I like to be straightforward about that too. And so it's really important, all of our identities, well, those of you who are our attendees today, we won't be hearing from you, but when we do go into the classroom setting, you'll be getting to know your classmates, and all of ourselves come, even though we're just maybe a little thumbnail on a screen for a little while until classes can resume in person. We come as a whole person, and we want you to know that your whole person, every part of you, is welcome at Fleming. And we're going to be talking what we do to make that a safe experience for you. So as we get started, first of all, positive space. What is a positive space? I don't have to answer that. Hey, panelists, what's your idea of a positive space?
I can jump in.
Sure.
To me, positive space is just a place where you can be yourself and feel comfortable in that. I also think that a positive space is somewhere where you feel accepted and you have peers who accept you for being who you are. And that's something that we try and keep in mind when we do initiatives and when we bring events on campus. So that's what we aim for, is a space where you can be yourself and feel accepted in the community here at Fleming.
I think that sounds like a great definition to me. Being yourself, safety, being respected. So we run a positive space program, which positive space education program is focused on human rights, particularly for LGBTQ students. And we are hoping later this year to develop other programming, maybe dealing with Indigenous allyship, anti-racism education. So we hope you stay tuned for that. But the Positive Space Education Program is a partnership between the Diversity Inclusion Services Office and the SAC Office, Student Administrative Council at Sutherland Campus, and Frost Student Association in Lindsay. So we're all here we're not going to go into the full training program. That's a 2-hour session offered in multiple levels, and you may be taking part in that through your class. It's offered in many classrooms, like social work and early childhood education and some general health sciences and many others. But today we're just going to do a little bit of an overview of those safe spaces, and we're going to talk a little bit about first of all, some vocabulary, and then we'll move. So actually, I'm just going to share a little bit of PowerPoint so everybody can see what we're doing. So, there's our names and Cole Poulin, who we're still expecting. And so Shelby and I are going to first of all talk a little bit about this acronym, LGBT2SQ. What does it stand for? And there are other letters that sometimes are found in this acronym, sometimes can stretch longer, and sometimes there can be confusion about what does all that mean. We have international students as well who don't know the Canadian context and don't know about human rights in Canada. So we're going to just briefly go through and explore that a little bit. Then we're going to really get into our panel discussion. And then we've got 4 questions that the group of us are going to address. So what do we think are the issues on campuses that students are facing? Then we're going to give the student councils a chance to really talk about what they specifically do to address creating positive spaces. And they may speak a little larger even than just LGBTQ. They might go into other areas that they make safe spaces for students, such as Indigenous students or international students. So feel free to mention those things. And then we'll talk about the Fleming services. And lots of people will be signing on today to find out when do the clubs meet and how do I get connected. So we'll definitely address that. And then how can all of you as students contribute to positive spaces? So it's a bit of a call out to all of you who are joining us today to the ways that you contribute as an ally making safe spaces on campus for your fellow students and your teachers and support staff like myself. And then finally, I'll do a little quick overview of all of our services at the end of the panel. So, Shelby, if you are ready, shall we jump in and handle the acronym? Are there any questions from any of the panel, first of all?
I'm ready to jump in when everyone else is good.
All right, so let's get started on this acronym. So here you'll see it's a bit of an expanded format with some other letters added that you may have never seen before. So Shelby's going to start us off, and she's going to talk about letters from this alphabet here that deal with sexual orientation. Take us away, Shelby.
Okay, so the L stands for lesbian, and that is a female identified person who is physically and emotionally attracted to other females. G is for gay, a male-identified person who is physically and emotionally attracted to other males. Gay is also used as a broader term to describe people attracted to someone of the same gender. B for bisexual, or commonly referred as bi, a person who is physically and emotionally attracted to people of more than one gender and who identify as bisexual. P is for pansexuality, and that is a sexual, romantic, or emotional attraction towards people regardless of their sex or gender identity.
And we have added asexual in here too. So this is a more recent addition to this acronym. So as people have explored sexuality in terms of the various groups, and we should say that not everybody who we're going to talk about today necessarily identifies all in the same way or feels a part of this acronym, this community. So these definitions are general, and people will modify them and adapt them how they feel about them. And sometimes we need to listen to people tell us how they interpret if they say, oh, I'm bisexual, what that means to them. So pansexual and asexual, I often hear, are newer terms and are less familiar with. So asexual would be a person who doesn't feel any particular sexual attractions to any gender, may still feel, romantic attractions and still want relationships. Um, but helps for some people who are looking for another term saying, I don't quite fit here. I don't feel attractions really to anyone sexually. I also, Shelby, I get questions about pansexual. Um, how is it different from bisexual, do you think?
So my understanding, I don't identify as bisexual or pansexual, so I don't want to step on any toes or misunderstand. But my understanding is that someone who's bisexual um, really is attracted to people of more than one gender. So that could be like a bi as in binary, so usually one or two emotional or sexual attractions, where pansexuality is an emotional or romantic or sexual attraction towards people regardless of their sex or gender identity. So they may be attracted to androgynous people, queer people, gay, lesbian, any body type. So it's more of an open term, where bisexual is more of a binary, if that's my proper understanding.
That sounds very clear to me, Shelby. And when you use that term binary, just in case people are unsure what that means, often in our language and deep in our thinking, we divide things into a yes or a no, into two polar opposites. So male or female, right? That it has to be one or the other. And certainly what is happening here is an exploration of identity, of orientation, and of gender that's larger than that binary. So yeah, I totally think pansexual, you're right, is a response to that, saying, no, I'm open to something way larger than that binary. So there's also another term, Shelby, if you'd cover under gender identity, transgender.
Yeah, of course. So transgender or trans is a term used by people who identify with a gender that is different from the gender they were assigned at birth. So people whose gender identity falls outside of the gender binary, and that's the idea, as Debbie was just saying, that there are only two genders, male and female, may also call themselves trans. Since trans is a word used to describe identity, a person has to identify with that term for it to be applicable. No one else can decide if a person is or isn't trans. Transgender is not a sexual orientation, it's a gender identity, as I said. The T for transgender is grouped with the sexual orientations in LGBTQ2S+ for many reasons, including shared civil and human rights activism and similar experiences of discrimination.
Yes, and unfortunately, transgender individuals experience some of the worst discrimination, harassment, and violence, along with the bisexual community that we see in recent Canadian results. And we talk about this a lot more detail, the actual situation for individuals under human rights in Canada in our Positive Space program. Intersex is another term, gender identity, and it addresses another aspect of humanness, which is for those who are identified as a particular gender identity at birth, but in fact, they at some point in their lives, often in the teen years, so it doesn't have to be then, it can be as children, as adults, will feel within themselves that that identity does not match what they feel they are. And so, and this could be often confusing with transgender, and people ask, well, how is that different from transgender? And often this is because at birth, our bodies are may be interpreted badly by the medical system, who assigns our gender when we're born and tells our parents what we are. And in fact, many people intersex may have different physical aspects of maleness or femaleness. They may have internal testes that might manifest later in their life or not, but that affect their feeling of being more male than female. And so this is something that we're becoming more growingly attentive to and allowing people to manifest their identity. So we won't go belabor that too much. We're going to address Two-Spirit and a couple more things so we can get into our panel. Two-Spirit, an Indigenous term. So the Indigenous community has said, well, through colonialism, our own ideas about gender and sexuality have been misinterpreted and in fact destroyed. And we feel we have a different sense of how in many of our communities, because of course there's great diversity amongst Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island or North America. In fact, we're going to adopt the term Two-Spirit to represent this sense of embodying male and femaleness. So that is a different cultural term, and many different cultures around the world may have different terms for gender beyond male and female. And queer and questioning are cues. So queer is a great umbrella term that can be used by people of any sexual orientation or gender identity. And questioning, of course, questioning our own identities. And allies. Well, we're not a part of this umbrella group, but we're here to make a call out to allies to step up and support. So anyone who's actively supporting the LGBT and larger acronym. So did I miss anything, Shelby, that you want to add to?
No, there's a great comment in the chat now, though, from A. Waite. I hope I said that correctly. And they wrote, pansexuality is an attraction to personality regardless of gender or sexuality. Omnisexual is an attraction to any gender or sexuality, but is still based on physical attraction, at least as I have always understood it. So thank you. I'm always learning, and I appreciate that.
Great. Thanks for sharing. All right, so let's get our panel going here. We're just going to go back a bit to our list of questions here. So we've addressed a bit of the acronym. And if our other panelists want to bring on their cameras and mics, we're going to ask, what kind of issues do you feel LGBTQ students are experiencing when they come to college? What have you noticed as a student or as a student council rep? Any of my panelists like to join in?
Just based on my own experience when I first joined college, I was kind of worried about being accepted. Obviously, going from high school into college, you don't realize how different it actually is. I'd like to say that high school is very narrowed in the sense of education and acceptance. So I didn't really have that great of a high school experience, really. People were constantly bullying me, and I kind of figured that that would be the same way for college. Just because, again, the population is so much larger, And growing up having that experience in elementary school and high school, I just assumed that that is what college would be like as well.
Mm. So students come in scared out of high school, worried.
Yeah, I believe, just based on my own experience.
Mm-hmm. What other experiences are students having? Zoe?
Yeah, I didn't have a bad experience in high school. It was just I didn't face any major discrimination. So I came into college not really knowing what to expect. I was lucky in the sense that I had a good experience in high school. So coming into college, I was like, oh, I hope I can still have that good experience. I didn't know what was coming. Um, but more than anything, my issue was kind of finding people like me. And I'm not one to join, LGBT 2S clubs. I was one to just kind of do me. Yes, I'm part of that community, but I'm maybe not wanting to join that kind of thing. But yet still wanted to kind of find people in my community who were similar to me. So that was kind of what I was worrying about when I came into college for the first time. Just kind of finding my people, finding people who accepted me and were similar to me.
And that can be even more worrisome now that we're all online, right? We won't have club meeting rooms and physical spaces. They'll be online spaces. Mm-hmm. Anything, Shelby, you wanted to add?
I would just build on what Cole said and say that, there's like, I think one of the most prevalent things on college campuses would be like bullying and harassment. That hasn't been my experience at Fleming. I've been privileged to enjoy a really great time at Fleming so far. And, I hope that that's the case for any student. But if not, Zoe and myself are here for our students on the SAC and FSA. So we're here.
Excellent. Well, I certainly know lots of students ask me what will their experience be. Oops, sorry. What their experiences will be with their teachers. So Fleming teachers get lots of training on creating positive spaces as well in their classroom and having inclusive classroom environments. They're encouraged to get others to share, students and themselves to share their own identities and their pronouns. And so I think it's another anxiety that students feel is what's going to happen with my teachers, or what if they do find out that I'm queer, that I'm trans, will this affect me? Right? So certainly we'll talk more about policies that protect them after. And how do student councils then create positive spaces for new students? We want to start in Peterborough or Lindsay?
I can start.
Okay, thanks, Shelby.
So we at the FSA, that's the Frost Student Association, create positive spaces by ensuring that our board of directors are trained on positive spaces. We follow a constitution and a code of conduct that ensures that we treat all people with respect and dignity. Beyond that, we work with students to ensure that they're fairly represented. The FSA helps facilitate the creation and recruitment of the GSA. So those of you that are new to the Frost campus and don't know, the GSA is the Gender and Sexuality Alliance. It's a student-run group at the Frost campus that provides a positive space where LGBTQ plus students and allies can meet and discuss current issues, organize events, and advocate for change on campus within the Fleming College community. So we have some great opportunities through the FSA and the GSA specifically.
Here at Sutherland, Fleming SAC does a lot, especially during Pride Week, to create positive spaces. So Pride Week here in Peterborough is coming up soon. So we're launching lots of events, lots of engagement opportunities, even though we're online. Like Debbie had mentioned, it's hard to meet your friends and meet these other people in the community and sessions like this and other Kahoots and kind of fun things we have going on over the next few weeks is a great way to engage with other people. When we're back on campus, we also have lots of fun events going on in person, which of course I wish that we could be back on campus and all doing this in person, but we've got some fun alternatives. Last year, I was a director for Fleming Student Administrative Council, and I brought in different initiatives every year. So last year, I brought in our diversity in sports awareness game. So it was a basketball game. We got Fleming jerseys made that were rainbow. So it was a really just kind of awareness game. We also have clubs, all kinds of opportunities for training, including positive space training too. So there's lots of different ways that you can get engaged and meet all these people, feel safe, feel included, feel respected, and have fun. And we talked about all those issues that we were worried about coming into college. It's such a big change, but when you do it, you realize it's so much different from high school. It's so much better. Yeah, all these issues that we were worried about didn't happen. And I personally have had the best experience here at Fleming, so I hope you all have the same experience, and I hope we can do that for you.
Thanks so much, both of you. The fact that you've had great experiences is a real testimony. So thanks for sharing personal stuff as well as what your organizations are doing for students. So I think I'll stop sharing this presentation. I'm going to take you into a little look at our website. So hopefully, students, you're getting familiar with my campus. So you're watching me here on the screen. So let's, everybody see that okay? You're on my campus screen?
Yep.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Zoe. So if you're looking for information on any student services, in our case, we're going to look for the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion website. You'll see them all set up here. So Zoe has mentioned athletics and so many others that you've encountered this week. So we're just going to go in here just so you all know how to navigate and find this information about our services. And I'll talk about some of these other areas of human rights later on, but right now we're focused on gender and sexuality. You're going to go to that tab. And here you can find out about many, many services. So the program that you can come in and do a full training with us later on, which has 2 levels, an introduction that goes much deeper into understanding the community, and then the second level really focused on being an ally. And Shelby and Zoe have mentioned the clubs. So here's how you can contact them. So their Facebook and their email contact information. So Pride Alliance at Peterborough and the GSA at Frost. And now you know Zoe and Shelby, and you can also reach out to them, the student councils, or myself at diversity@flemingcollege.ca can help you reach out and get connected to a club. And we've actually already got some dates planned. So we'll mention those a little bit later on for our first meetings. And then there are community services like PARN, your Community AIDS Resource Network has community educators that come into our Positive Space program, or Gender Journeys that's going to be giving options for students, trans and genderqueer students, to get support from their agency every 4th Thursday for all Fleming students who are interested. So watch for your communications email. In a couple weeks, it'll announce all their schedule for meetings and a link to join with them. And it doesn't matter where you reside, you can get supports from them as long as you're a Fleming student, regardless of whether you're in Peterborough or Lindsay. And yes, an international student can get supports as well. So don't even have to be in Canada. We have a name change clinic where you can change your preferred name, and this is really important. So sometimes students, to protect their safety, want to make sure that their legal name on their birth certificate maybe is changed to a name they prefer to be called. and a different gender they'd like their teacher to address them by. So you can do that through the Registrar's Office forms link here. So lots of information. And all gender washrooms are available on campus, which means that anyone, regardless of their gender, can go into these washrooms. Some of them are even multi-stall. And then some are private and also even accessible. And we have also an employee association. So that's a little bit how the college, a little later I'll talk about policies, but certainly that's an overview of our services. So now we want to talk about how do students contribute? So in our last few minutes here before we open up to lots more questions, how do you think students who are new to Fleming can contribute to making a positive space for everyone at Fleming?
I think coming into Fleming and being, as judgment-free as possible will help contribute to a positive space. You're coming into a diverse campus, or really an assortment of diverse campuses. There's a couple of us where, people should be able to feel safe and able to be themselves, regardless of whether or not they're in a marked positive space. So, if you can come to the campus judgment-free and really bring your best self, I think that's a great step forward.
Thanks, Shelby.
I would also say what you can do as a student is if you have questions, if you're unsure about something, if maybe after this presentation you don't remember that whole acronym and you need to do your research, get involved, look things up online, do the positive space training that we provide. We provide training on all of this. So it's really, not only should you bring a positive attitude, non-judgment, open mind, but also if you have questions, ask. There's opportunities to have those questions answered. There's opportunities to have training done. So just on top of coming into this with a positive attitude and a good outlook, but also get involved. That's my recommendation for coming into as a new student.
There's so much to learn, not just your academics. So thanks for that invitation to come and learn about LGBTQ issues. What about you, Cole? Cole, what would you say to other students?
I definitely agree with both of what Shelby and Zoe said. Just being very welcoming and never shutting anybody out. Like Fleming, I found was more home to me than it is a school. Every single person that I had actually met, I developed a huge relationship with them. Everybody's extremely welcoming and very understanding. And as Zoe said, there's the positive space training, and there's so many things that you can get involved in to become more active within the Fleming community. And I think that it's important that students who are new and just joining the Fleming community get involved in.
Thanks, Cole. So we have a question here. The student is asking for gender neutral bathrooms, or all gender bathrooms as we call them in some of our bathrooms. I identify as female. I should try to be courteous and avoid using those bathrooms so that those that don't necessarily identify as female or male have more access to those spaces, right? So this is a question. I don't know if any of you feel comfortable answering. I would say, first of all, actually, the college encourages anyone to use all gender bathrooms and even accessible bathrooms. Some of our accessible bathrooms are placed close to program areas where there are higher concentrations of students with disabilities. So when our campuses reopen, there are a few, for example, that have special lifts and things for people in wheelchairs. And so while they're all gender and accessible, yeah, we might stay away from this. Sorry? What did you say? Oh, sorry. Somebody was adding something. So I'm just a feedback loop, I guess. I'm getting a sound. So actually, apart from kind of being respectful of those washrooms, we would encourage anyone to use the all gender washrooms. One of my coworkers tells a fun story where she walked in one day and a male student was preparing for a business presentation and was struggling with his tie. And she walked in and saw him as she was washing her hands, struggling. And she said, "Do you want a hand? I actually know how to tie a tie." And he was like, "Yes, please." And so, in fact, those spaces are open to all kinds of interactions, right? So they're much more like our home bathrooms that we all use regardless of our gender. So yes, you would be welcome in there. Because there are multi-stalls in those larger ones. There's about, I think, 6 stalls in the Sutherland ones. We don't have those yet at the Lindsay campus, to my knowledge. Do we, Shelby?
So the Lindsay campus all gender washroom is near the FSA space, and it's a private washroom. So just the one. But just to add, I would encourage Brianna to use whichever washroom you feel comfortable in and safe in. So gender neutral bathrooms are a welcoming place. So if you feel safe and comfortable using those washrooms, then of course use those washrooms.
And I just want to add that some of the washrooms are in like people focused areas, these gender neutral ones, the multi-stalled ones. So there's a gender neutral multi-stalled bathroom right outside of the transit lounge. So you might be just waiting for your bus. That's the closest washroom. You don't. I wouldn't go out of your way to avoid this area. Like Debbie said, it's kind of like your home bathroom that everyone uses. It is multi-stalled, so there's people walking in and out, but there is a little bit more privacy. The stalls tend to go a little bit closer to the ground, so it's a little bit more private, but it's very, very similar to the average stall washroom.
Yeah, apart from the single washrooms, they actually are much private than the other male and female washrooms because, right, they do go right down to the floor. And the door cracks are sealed very, very tight. So it's very private in those washrooms. So we're getting another diversity question here about what kinds of activities are organized at Fleming for people from different countries. So might be an international student or a newcomer student who wants to know about cultural diversity. You want to jump in, Zoe?
Yeah, I'll jump in. There's lots of events we run from Fleming SAC that are targeted towards international students. For example, we have like Bollywood night where we play mostly music from India, different parts of India, of course. And different events like that. So we run events, and we have different clubs too, and those clubs sometimes run events. We also have international student services who runs their events too. So there's lots of different events targeted towards people from different countries, international students, both from us as Fleming SAC and from international student services as well. But everyone's welcome to come to every event.
That's right. What about in Lindsay?
I don't really have anything original to add. We do much of the same that SAC does. We also have an international student services office on our campus that run events. So yeah, I don't really have anything fresh or new to say, but we're doing the same as SAC.
Great. And lots of departments are involved, as well as the student councils and international. Indigenous Student Services is hosting cultural events in public spaces or in the student council centers. So you'll be watching for things, for now we'll be doing everything virtually. So watch out for the many events and special occasions that we'll commemorate. And then when we're back on campus, absolutely, there'll be you'll be able to experience some of the Canadian events that we celebrate that are important to us. Halloween will be coming up. Canadians love Halloween. and getting dressed up. And we have fun on our campuses doing that. And you'll get to know about broad other cultural events. So we have a large Indian student population, so we celebrate Diwali and Holi when weather permits, and we celebrate Lunar New Year, and all students are invited into these activities. So,
I'd just like to touch base on that before we go to the next question. Sorry. So, as Zoe had mentioned, that Fleming SAC does a lot of events and stuff like that. I always suggest to people to follow them on their social media accounts, so Facebook and Instagram. That way you can stay up to date with what's going on. Another good thing that I'd like to suggest is once the school does reopen, just give yourself like a tour and see what is on campus and where the offices are. Like, I was a business marketing student, and we had like a scavenger hunt that we had to find multiple different offices and stuff like that. And like, just becoming more familiar with the campus itself. That way, you know where to go when you have certain issues or when you have certain questions, like finding the SAC office to realize more of what they're about, international student services, like figuring out what they're about as well. Just giving yourself a tour if you have not yet done that is definitely a good suggestion.
great idea, Cole. I imagine when our campuses open, there'll be lots of tours.
Yeah.
Maybe not for this semester. Those boot camps and specialized education that will sort of happen in very limited options this fall. They'll probably be wanting you to stay in fairly limited spaces to help prevent the spread of COVID. But when things are safe, absolutely, there'll be tours to jump on board with. So before we go, and there's another question coming up more broadly about human rights, and I can talk about the policies and how student councils can advocate for you also. But I'm wondering if, just to give you a reminder, everybody out there, there's still lots of students online. Open up your Q&A box and pop us in a question. We'll be happy to answer it. Students here will answer anything they can. So, is there a platform to report any kind of misbehavior, remarks passed based on your gender, race, religion, physical appearance? So I will tell you from the Diversity Inclusion Office, absolutely there are human rights policies. There's a harassment and discrimination policy in place, which is based on the Ontario Human Rights Code, as well as legislation that protects people with disabilities, called the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act. And there's also a student rights and responsibilities policy. I'll pop on the presentation in a second and I'll show you some of those links. But certainly they are there to help you, you to report those issues. You can also go to your student council if you're experiencing something and you're not sure where to go to make a report, or is this something really I should report? Shelby and Zoe, how now during COVID is the best way for a student to reach out to you? Is there a generic email or Facebook, or how should a student do that?
Sorry, Shelby, I'm just gonna jump in. The best way to reach out to us at this point is through email. You can go onto our website and you can reach every person's email. So if you want to reach out to me, President, directly, my email's on there. It's also Fleming SACPres at flemingcollege.ca. Or if you want to reach out to more of a peer, our directors all have their emails on the website as well as staff if you need to reach out to staff. So for the most part, the best way to reach out to us, especially with this online world, is through email.
Okay. Shelby?
Yeah, so you can definitely visit our website. So our website is frostsa.ca, and right to the left, there's a contact screen, and that will bring you to the Board of Directors for 2020 and 2021. You can see emails for everybody that's on our Board of Directors, including myself. If you'd like to make a note, my email is fsavicepresident@flemingcollege.ca. So you can definitely get a hold of us that way. You can get a hold of us via Facebook. We're on Facebook as the Frost Student Association, and we're also on Instagram as the Frost Student Association.
Great. So there's a couple of questions popping in, but some of our panelists have to leave for another event at 2 o'clock. So I just want to, I will be staying here. Actually, I can stay in this session as long as there's questions. And I see that there are some about residents and other things that don't really fall in this. So I'm going to give a bit more information about diversity inclusion services. And Shelby and Cole, feel welcome to stay along with me or sign out if you have to move along as well. But thank you, Zoe. I know you're leaving us. Thank you for participating today.
Yeah,
sharing
thank you so much. This
feedback.
Sorry. Yeah, it's great to hear some feedback from students and have a conversation, or kind of a conversation through text. And I just want to let students know who are still in the chat, like, reach out to me. I love talking to students. The online presence is difficult, but I think that you guys can email me at any time. I love having a conversation with you, especially if you have any questions about anything we've talked about today. Reach out. Me or Debbie or Shelby would be happy to answer those for you.
Great. Just before you sign off, if you can pop into the chat box and put your email address.
Yes, I'll do that right now.
And Shelby, if you can do the same with the address that you just repeated. All right.
I'm
So
already on
what's that?
I said I'm already on it.
Great. Thanks so much. So let me just share. We'll go back here.
All right. I sent it.
Great. Thanks so much. So we have a great session at 2 o'clock.
No problem. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Zoe.
Bye, guys.
Zoe.
So diversity inclusion services. We'll just get past this. We've seen all here. So diversity and inclusion can do lots of that referral work as well. We have an easy to remember email, diversity@flemingcollege.ca. So again, if you're uncertain about what you're experiencing and am I being harassed or what is going on in my experience or where can I get a service or how can I connect with people, just feel free to connect at any time. I also offer, I can call you back. We can book a phone chat. I can also set up a live WebEx in my WebEx meeting room or a Zoom chat or some other WhatsApp or whatever is good for you and communicate with you about your issues personally. And we do, obviously, the education through positive space and other areas. We do lots of events and communications, educational events through Facebook and others to share information. And we're very connected to local resources. And so it might be the New Canadian Centre for newcomers. It might be Gender Journeys for someone who's transgender. There are so many community supports. You can feel connected. You can just feel free to reach out to us and get connected. Everything we do is based on the Human Rights Code in Ontario. And so, if you're not sure what that is, here's a little glimpse of the Ontario Human Rights Code and all the protected grounds of your identity that are safe. So today we really focused on gender identity and expression and on sex and sexual orientation. But we can't be discriminated based on our age, our race, the citizenship we hold, our ethnic origins, our religious beliefs that are under creed, and so on. So feel free to look into ohrc.on.ca if you're curious. We've talked a lot about these, so don't forget Peterborough Pride is coming up in a couple of weeks, and there'll be lots of communication sent to your Fleming email account about how to get involved. And again, everything will be majoritarily online for now, but things will open up gradually. We talked about some of the cultural events that go on. So yes, there are many services for newcomers to Canada, regardless whether you're a temporary resident, a permanent resident, or a refugee. We have a large English program that provides extra English support for those who don't speak English as their first language. So reach out to us and we'll direct you. We also manage spiritual affairs. So there are quiet reflection rooms. This is the room at the Sutherland campus. And also Father John Perdue, who is the chaplain, the Catholic chaplain to Fleming students. And we'll have a meeting coming up with him at 1 o'clock on September the 15th. And it'll be advertised as well. And you'll be able to jump in if you're Catholic or if you're just looking for spiritual comfort in a difficult time. There are many diverse faith communities in the Peterborough and Lindsay area. And so you can see just a few here. There is two Muslim associations. So the Masjid Mosque, also known as the Kawartha Muslim Religious Association, and the Oasis. Sikh students have a divinity club. They have an active WhatsApp group we can connect you to. You'll find it on my webpage under Spiritual Affairs. And a listing of other churches, synagogues, and so on. Training programs. Positive Space isn't the only one. Accessible customer service is available to learn about how to provide great customer service to a person with a disability, and it will be mandatory training for many of you in your programs. It'll be part of your what they call non-academic requirements, or NARS. And you will have deadlines to complete these online training programs. And they are all co-curricular record eligible, meaning that you get a credit when something is CCR eligible, when you complete it, and it includes some paid roles, some volunteer roles, and some training programs offered by many departments, career services, and the library, and all kinds of departments have training programs that are CCR eligible. And at the end of your school program, you'll be able to download a transcript from the CCR system that will show all your involvements on campus. So it's great to add to your resume. Instead of attaching a lot of certificates of all the things you've done and letters of appreciation, you'll have one nice formal looking college transcript that will talk about your involvements. The Student Rights and Responsibilities area also offers sexual violence prevention training, bystander training. So how do we intervene if we see someone, there's potential violence or sexual assault happening? How can we get involved and support someone who's been a victim? And as I said, watch out for Indigenous allyship training and anti-racism training later this fall. So there are many college services. We did talk about human rights, and there is a human rights officer that will investigate if there is a complaint. Student Rights and Responsibilities Office, when it isn't one of those protected grounds from the Ontario Human Rights Code, then there is still a Student Rights and Responsibilities policy. So it might not be one of those protected areas, as we mentioned, but it might be general bullying that you're experiencing. So the Student Rights and Responsibilities policy can protect you there. The Security Office has a Safe app and Safe Walk program when you're back on campus. And we've talked about student councils quite a bit and the diversity inclusion services. So that's just a really quick overview of some of the many diverse services on our campus that protect your human rights and aim to make you safe, welcome, respected. We'll bring back our panelists. We'll see if there are any other questions that have popped in. Where do we find those training programs online? So go back to diversity inclusion. Our training programs will be there. Each department will have their own. So career services will be listed on their website. The library will list on theirs, and so on. Any last final questions? All right. Oh, okay. Since fall 2020 is online, how do I take part in activities organized by Diversity Inclusion? Can I take part in clubs? So Shelby, you're still here. What do you envision for the clubs at the Frost campus, at least in this early part of the fall?
The FSA right now is working on connecting with clubs. Our board of directors is actually meeting this evening to get fall 2020, organized, because our board of directors, including myself and our president, are all full-time students. So we're looking to meet this evening to start getting that organized. I don't know, if I'm being honest, what to envision clubs to look like this fall. We are trying to get them online if possible, so that everyone has access to them. We have met with recreation to see if there's any way we can do some in-person activity, but it's still up in the air. So just know your student associations are trying their best to ensure that you do have a great experience this year. But we're also a little limited by COVID-19, unfortunately. So.
So we have set a date on Thursday, September 17th at 12 o'clock. Your student council for Lindsay students will share a link to get joined for the Gender and Sexuality Alliance kickoff meeting.
Yep.
And I'm sure Zoe will share out one for the Pride Alliance very shortly. Other clubs have included international student clubs or even specific clubs to countries of origins, like the Indian Student Club and the Vietnamese Student Club. So those connect largely through Facebook, and International Student Services is a wealth of information about that. The Catholic Student Club will start on the 15th with Father John Perdue, and I know that the Sikh Club, Divinity Club, is ongoing at the Peterborough campus. So there'll be others that'll pop up. So watch your Fleming email account. That's where you'll get notifications. Every Tuesday, there'll be a general email to students sent out that will be a combination of whatever's coming up that week or in the coming couple of weeks. And I advertise activities there, student councils do, the library does, career services does, all kinds of stuff gets listed there. So keep your eye on that once a week, check in on Thursday. And I know International Student Services sends out a great newsletter on Friday. And to international students, and the student councils also have a newsletter that goes out. Well, Shelby or Cole, if you have nothing else to say, I think our questions are pretty well wrapped up. There is a question about residents. I haven't responded. You'd be best to go to the housing website and connect with the residents directly to find out when move-in is at the end of October. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact date. Any final words? Cole, Shelby?
I just want to thank everybody and thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this. All new Fleming students, welcome. You're going to enjoy your college career. I spent 3 years there and absolutely loved it. And to touch base on what I had mentioned earlier, I kind of had a fear of entering college. It was far different than what I expected. I was so involved and so welcomed by everybody that, like I said, it made it feel like home. And even now, being a graduate for the last couple months, I almost want to apply for something different and go back to Fleming because I miss it so much. So enjoy your college experience and welcome to Fleming.
Thanks so much for taking your time today, Cole.
No worries. Thank you.
And all the best in your future, graduate.
Thanks so much. Pleasure meeting everyone.
Thanks, Cole.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say thank you to everyone for attending. I see that we have quite a few participants today, which is fantastic. I appreciate everyone, taking the time to make sure that Fleming is a welcoming and positive campus. So thank you for coming out. Like I said, I work for the FSA as a vice president. So if you do have any concerns and you are a Frost or Halliburton campus student, you can reach out to the Frost Student Association. If you're a Sutherland student, you can reach out to SAC, which is the Student Administrative Council. But yes, thank you so much for coming. And I'd like to echo Cole's sentiment that, these are the best years of your life and you're going to really enjoy yourself here.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Really, student councils bring a whole new other side to life as a student. They're here for you. Diversity and Inclusion Services is here for you. Connect with us at diversity@flemingcollege.ca. We'll refer you to one another where there's a supportive team of staff and student council staff out there. So reach out anytime. That's the end of our session. And oh, unable to see. Okay, it's all good here. All right, so thanks. Signing off now. And take care, everyone.
Thank you.